Hi guys, welcome back. Osset here. Um, I know it's been several months since the last time we've met, and the last time you were here with me, I was deep diving into my stash and culling some fabrics and moving some things along. Um, let's see. I got laid off from my job in October. So what I've been doing in the meantime is curating my stash. So one of the things I want to do for 2024, by the way, Happy New Year. Give thanks. I came in 2024 basically sideways, but I'm here and I'm upright. So for 2024, I know a lot of people are doing like their make nine and resolutions and things they want to do. And I really love that idea within our sewing community. I love the idea of wanting to be intentional. With that being said, last year when I started going through my fabrics, I shared some things with you guys that I had donated, moved along. Um, but one of the things that I have been thinking about is that I'm no longer going to call it a stash. And I saw a clip. This woman named Barbara, she mentioned something about calling your stash a thing that would be hoarded by a dragon, hoarded and guarded, uh, irrespective of wanting to use it or not. But if it's a collection, then it's something more that you can curate and appreciate and sit back and treasure. And my own collection has changed through the years, through the decades. Um, the person that started sewing in the 70s is no longer the person that's sitting here. Well, not exactly. Things change. My collection changed as I was going through it. I realized, I had bought fabrics when I was in corporate America, then I was in retail, and then I was in finance and accounting and doing different things. And, different styles were coming in on the scene that I wanted to explore. Um, One aspect of my life when I was living in Germany in the 80s, um, as I was going through my stash, I discovered two pieces of fabric that I still have from that time. I purchased these fabrics in 1983. One I purchased from the States and had it shipped to me. Um, Believe me, shipping was cheap because it's coming to an APO address and all of that. And the other piece I bought while I was living in Germany. So where I lived, it was a very rural town, meaning there was not a place that carried cloth at all. We had to make an excursion if I wanted to buy fabric, and that was almost like a side excursion. So let me show you the first piece. Well, I'll show you this piece that I bought. Um, it was called the Kaufhof. I don't know if it's still there, but it is. I'm going to show you this, guys. And it's not blue. It's coming up as blue, but it's a jeweled velvet, purple velvet, jewel tone. Wow. Wow. I mean, I wish it was this blue, but trust me, it's not blue. It's purple. And one of these days, let me see if I do something there with the lighting. No, that doesn't do it. But trust me. So there's about, I unearthed it. She's a little crushed. I'm going to give her a steam. And I've got about 1, 2, 3, 4 yards here. So one of my goals for 2024 is to use this piece of fabric. That's one of my goals, is to use the oldest pieces of cloth that I have in my collection. And it's really just these two that I distinctly remember where I was and the time that I purchased them. And the other piece I have purchased, and this one has a story. I purchased this wool fabric from Vogue Fabrics. Is it Chicago? Mail order. I believe they're still in business, and I bought it with the idea of making a coat. And how many decades later, I still want to make a coat. Now, when I first bought this fabric, I didn't have any idea of lining. So, several decades later, Joann's wasn't in existence. It was House of Fine Fabrics and Sofro. So, whew, are we talking 25 or so years ago? When they were closing down, I was in the shop and I found this fabric. Uh, let's see. Oh, you see a little bit better that way. And I believe this to be, see, this is more turquoise. It's coming across as very blue, but it's more teal. I'm going to put you guys on pause for a second and then well, you're going to have to trust me on this, okay? This is actually the perfect lining for this coat. I have the pattern, but I've changed my mind on the pattern. It was a Project Runway. Anyone remember that line? It was a Project Runway coat. Um, and up until recently, the pattern was folded in with the fabric. I also love the idea, and I think it was Chanel that came up with this concept of having a matching blouse to go with the coat. So you can see behind me, there is a blouse that I had made to go with, to make like an ensemble, so to speak. So it's going to be a full length coat. I guess you could say what they call it, reefer style. You know, I'm going to come in and give a little talk about the styles of clothing, the styles of coats and the collars, etc., all of that. But I like the idea of a matching blouse with the lining, and I pretty much like that across the board. So I had made a bow blouse a while ago. I was testing out my serger at the time. So the blouse is created, it's done. Um, so that's one of my goals for 2024. Another goal of mine is to sew what I have, work with what I have. So I will not be purchasing any new fabric in 2024. I will not be purchasing much of anything. I don't need buttons. I don't need zippers. I don't need interfacing. I don't need lining. I don't need shoulder pads. I don't need um, oh gosh, like flannel to make sleeve heads. I, as of right now, I don't need thread. So my budget for 2024 is $100. That's it. I'm going to spend $100, if that. So I got this bag, this cute little bag. Grace made this for me. Thank you so much, Grace. I love it. So this is going to be my grab and go bag. It has in here my notebook because I do not like keeping track of things digitally. I'm serious, I do not. It has gift cards that I have. Let's see. Well, they're there. See, a couple of gift cards. And it has some cash. I have some cash. So everything is totaling $100. And what I'll do is, if I need something and I do not have it in my collection, I have it nowhere and I have to purchase it, I can purchase it out of this $100. But as I said, I don't need to buy another piece of cloth. So I will be working with everything that I have around me moving forward into 2024. I know that having a large collection and sometimes sustainability, those are things that are in question. It's okay. I love everything that I have. I love the idea of having so I can give. Um, when the good Lord decides that it's time for me to go home, this has already been bequeathed to, um, I have I have children's homes. I have Center for Domestic Violence. I have, and that's just not here in the States, but also in Jamaica and certain countries in Africa. All of this is already bequeathed. So I can enjoy what I have with me right now, knowing that when I'm no longer here, it's going to be moving towards um, other loving and openly welcoming and receptive places. So, number three for 2024, speaking of sustainable sewing. So, I like thrifting. I do. And that's something I also want to be mindful of in 2024. I don't want to go thrifting just to do it. I'm going also with the idea of being intentional. Now, where I am right now, I don't need to do any thrifting. I have some things that I'm working with. I have plenty of sheets and I have a duvet cover that I just got. Oh gosh, I can't wait to show you guys that. And I am going to sneeze and I'm going to take a pause. Okay, so as I said, working with what I have. Let me ask you something. Is this the color for the year? Let's take a closer look. They say peach fuzz. Let's see how she's coming across here. This is an ultra suede. Been in my stash. You see, eventually, and I always say, there's nothing new under the sun. Eventually, having a collection that I have, eventually everything will come back around. Like nothing will be out of fashion or out of style. It's what you want to work with. Um, I was having a conversation with a fellow YouTuber, and we were talking about the availability of certain fabrics in certain years. And she said she was looking for jewel tones, and that particular year she couldn't find a jewel tone. It was not to be found anywhere. Why? Because whether we realize it or not, we are influenced by um, Pantone and what the big boys are saying, and it trickles down to us, and that's what becomes available to us. So if you have a nice collection to work with, then you'll always have something that you love in your carefully curated stash of well-loved fabrics. The other thing that I am going to do, again, might as well, sorry. Um, I'm going to be very, very mindful of the patterns that I buy. So by now, everyone has seen the rollout of the latest Simplicity McCall's and Vogue. And Vogue 2000, the reissue of the Diane von Furstenberg wrap dress, the iconic dress, it's back. Um, I will not be purchasing that pattern. I won't. I have, give me a second. Pretty much every iteration of a wrap dress that has ever been put out. I have, it was a great thought, it was great design when it first came out, but I have so many of these types of wrap dress patterns that I don't need to, I'm speaking slowly, purchase. any. Some of them are fairly new. I think this, that wrap dress pattern that just came out is a reprint, I believe, of this. I have that one as well. Um, but then I have some patterns here. Let's see. Let's see the date on it. 1977 on this one. Um, this is another one. What I'm wearing is actually this McCall's pattern. I made this dress over 20 years ago. So, talk about sustainable fashion. I made this dress from this pattern over 20 years ago. I think you can still get it, McCall's 3648 wrap dress. The fabric is not super stretchy at all, has very little stretch. The finishing and such, my one regret is not putting interfacing in the collar, but it's a dress that I love this dress still. But here pretty much is a copy of the Vogue 2000, the Diane von Furstenberg dress. The pattern pieces are the same when Mimi G laid them out. I did a comparison. The pattern pieces are exactly the same. And I already have 3 copies of this pattern. So that's not a pattern I'm going to be buying. So as I was watching some of the reviews of the new patterns that are out, in my mind, I was like, oh my gosh, I've seen that design, I've seen that design, I've seen it somewhere. So one of the things I think I'm going to do, if I can get someone, you guys know I don't edit, but maybe I can have a conversation with someone who has the ability to bring up, the catalog with simplicity, and we can do a comparison with maybe some of the patterns that I have in my stash and do a comparison of some of the design lines. Let me show you, let me see if I have one. There is a pattern out now. I don't know if it's McCall's, but when I saw, it's not that one. Where am I? Here, this one. The image is not, the shoulders aren't as broad, but you see this is more shaping in the waist. The one that they're selling now does not have as much shaping, but it has this going on. And that to me is a design feature. There's also, no, you can't make this into a jacket. Maybe you could, but there's a Vogue pattern that has a jacket with this design feature on this as well. Okay. Also, another design feature is the return of flanges. And flanges are the extra piece that you see stitched here. Let me see. Do I have? I do. Let me see. Let me hold this. I'm going to work on this lighting for you guys one of these days. One of these days I'm going to get this right, but you can see it especially on the blue right there. That is a flange. And if you look closer, it's stitched down. The flange was a huge design feature in the 80s. Let's see, I'll show you this one here. There we go. To the point where you could make it, it could be separated and, of course, multicolored. It's not so good. Let's see. Jackets, get close there. You can really see it on the red jacket there. That's Those are flanges. So we're seeing a lot of that. Joan Collins. Look at the dress right there. And the reason why flanges were in place because um, the shoulder pads didn't have to be so big. You know, in the 80s, we did wear shoulder pads so that either they were very extreme or they were subtle. And here's one of my favorite renditions of a flange. Look at that. Let me see if I can get it. Look at that. See that? Now, that brings me to the next thing that I want to talk about. Back in the day, Vogue Patterns was the line that brought the sauce. They brought the zazz. They brought it. They brought the uniqueness. And I don't know what's happening nowadays. Um, so my pattern budget, I'm not going to be too concerned about going over budget where patterns are concerned. Um, I do have my eye on a few, but I'm going to be very discerning in my purchases simply for that. Simply, I've learned what, of course, attracts me to buy a certain pattern. It is a design line. And with the amount of patterns that I have, knowing that everything is cyclical, I am bound to have something with that design line in my collection. So that's another thing that I'll be doing. So for 2024, ooh, I do have my Make Nine. I know last year I talked to you guys about my Mimi G patterns, and I finally narrowed it down to 11 this year. So I'm still going to follow through on my Make Nine Mimi G. I know Anne Marie had talked about like dive into the designer. I know Rochelle had mentioned Donna Karen having a lot of patterns. I have a lot of Donna Karen patterns. I mean, I'm not bragging, but I've been doing this for over 40 years. I'm bound to have a lot. And a lot of this has been around the world with me. And I love it all. Um, but I know I'm realistic that I have more years behind me than I do ahead of me. And because things are coming back around, I think we're moving back into like one of my favorite eras, which is the 70s, the 80s, and the beginning of the 90s. Um, that's my wheelhouse, my vibe, my jam, the colors and the fabrications. And I love the broad shoulders and the narrow waist, all of that. Let's see. I've got a couple of other things that I'm going to do. I will come back, give you an update. I've been yammering for almost 25 minutes. So I just want to say thank you so much for being here. I know I'm looking at the camera here and I'm looking at the laptop here. I'm trying to like work all of this out. Bear with me. Maybe one of my goals is to like edit, but honestly, I like to do this as though you're in my living room with me and we're having a bit of a chin wag and just enjoying, playing with fabric and looking at patterns and coming up with different ideas. So I want to say again, thank you so much for hanging in there with me and welcoming me back. I know kind of like in and out, you're not really sure, but I'm hoping for a more prosperous, settled, grounded 2024. And with that, I bid you adieu and I will see you soon. Goodbye.